What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's good to see you. I wanted to talk to you today about character development. What is it that we're referring to when we talk about a person's character? The most simple way I've found to explain it, to put it into words, is like this. Any average English speaking person, when they use the word I, what they are referring to is their character, their person, right? Your character is defined as your person, everything that makes you you. And there are several different aspects to your character. First, there is a physical character, right? Like your appearance, your body, the color hair that you have, right? And you can alter the body directly through like diet and exercise, right? Things like this, or indirectly with like fashion, clothes and accessories, with makeup and tattoos and piercings, even cars and homes and money can become like an extension of a person's character. You see? So there is this physical aspect, but there is also an emotional aspect, right? And a mental aspect, a spiritual aspect to the person or to the character. And I sort of want to let you know here, I understand that the language may be strange that I'm using. It sounds like I'm talking about a character in like a video game or something. But I don't believe that we're in a video game. So I want to be absolutely clear here. I'm not giving you any sort of like allegorical meaning to my words. Okay, it just is what it is. I believe that we model video games, books, and movies after real life. So we can sometimes explore certain abstract ways of thinking, certain examples to allow us to explore deeply certain thoughts, right? And to really come to a more firm understanding of what it is that we're talking about here. We can use metaphors, but I'm in no way telling you that you are in a video game or a simulation or something like that, right? So all of these different aspects of a person or of a character, they have to be developed, okay? When you first start reading a book or watching a movie, you don't know anything about the main character. Like you have to meet them and be introduced in a way, right? And naturally, as time goes on, as the story progresses, right, as you watch more of the movie or as you read more of the book, naturally you form sort of a relationship with the character. You get to know the character. And how does that happen? Well, it happens because you get to consciously observe the character's interactions with their environment in their own little world, right? Because you never get to directly communicate with the character in a book. You can't like pull them out of the book and say, hey man, tell me, where were you from? And, what are your interests? And, what's your worldview, right? So you have to read about it. And as you see in the book, the character is subjected to certain experiences, certain scenarios, and they have to make choices. And you get to know them based on the choices that they make, based on their actions, the way that they live their life in the book, right? And so, in the same way, when you're born on this planet, you don't know anything about who you are. Technically, you're like nothing, right? There is no character. You're not playing a character or playing a role when you were first born, when you were just an infant. But rapidly, as you begin to soak up experience and as time goes by, you develop a deeper awareness of your environment, right? You begin to experience. And through your experience with life itself, you get to know yourself. You get to discover things about who you are naturally, like the things that look beautiful to you, the foods that taste good to you or that taste bad to you, right? Like your pleasures and your pains, right? The things you want and don't want, your beliefs. You get to look out into the world and experience your own perspective, experience your own worldviews. But most of us just aren't really conscious of this way of thinking about ourself, about looking at our character, right? Um, and this is an important thing to understand right here, is that any character that you're talking about, whether it is your own character or it is the character of another person, or even if it's a character in a video game, a book, or a movie, every single character is in some stage of development. The development never ends. It never stops, right? Until the book ends, until the movie is at its end, until life is at its end. You see, you're constantly developing your character, your person. And there's much evidence of this. You don't have to believe me. You can just look at your own life experience, and you most likely are not the same person today that you were 10 years ago, right? You've been constantly changing and evolving, and all of that is based on your experience with the world, your interactions with your environment, right? So all of us are at some stage of development. Never trick yourself into thinking that you are a finished product. But there is sort of good news that comes along with this. Let's say that you discover yourself. You know your character, your person. You know who you are meant to be while you're here in this lifetime, right? And then you fulfill that purpose. Let's say you were meant to be like a personal trainer, and you fulfill that. Now you're the personal trainer. Well, the cool thing is that you can look at your entire life experience and know that you were always that personal trainer. You were just developing into like the fruition of it, right? Like when you were a baby, this is what a baby personal trainer looked like. So it's pretty cool to think about it that way. But also, let's say you become the personal trainer. Well, things can change. You can always change your character. Let's say you get tired of doing that. Your interests, your heart pulls you in a different direction. You can always change it, right? Because characters are naturally developing. And you can take a conscious role in this, right? You can actually dictate what's going on and develop your character. And that's exactly what I'm talking to you about, right? We're exploring this idea right now together. Another thing that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about character development is that sometimes it's very easy to feel like you've somehow fallen behind everybody else in development. Like you're developing slower in certain areas than other people. It's easy to seem like that if you just go by appearances. But nobody is truly moving any slower or moving any faster than anybody else, okay? You are exactly where you are supposed to be. And I want to be absolutely clear with what I mean when I say you are exactly where you are supposed to be. What I mean is you could have a million personal trainers, but the life experience, the path, the direct path that that person took to become the personal trainer that they are today is drastically different than other people. Some people become a personal trainer when they're 18, some at 25, some at 35, some at 65. It just depends. But there's no limit on it. You see, so you're not developing slowly or quickly, you're developing naturally. But I want to be extremely clear when I say you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I'm not saying that you're exactly where you're at right now because you've been doing everything right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your entire life, Every experience that you've ever had, every thought that you've ever had, every action that you've ever taken, every circumstance or situation that you've ever been in, good and bad, the sum of that is exactly where you're sitting right now. And the good news about this is that if you can accept this, if you can truly accept this and understand this and surrender to it, then you will realize that you have gotten yourself into this situation in a way. You're not 100% responsible, if that helps you, right? But it's possible to change it based on what you do from this moment forward. If you find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in, let's say. So, this is the point of character development. When an author writes a book, right, he has an idea about the characters, but his goal for you as the reader is to allow you to fall in love with the character. And that's our goals as individuals here in this life, is to develop our character, especially if you're unhappy or not totally satisfied with your character. It's our duty to develop our character and get ourselves to the point where we fall in love with the person that we've become. And it is satisfying knowing that you played a part in making this happen, right? Now, there was a great philosopher that went by the name of Seneca. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on this man and his life, but what I can tell you about Seneca is this. He was born around 2,000 years ago in Spain. And when he was young, he was brought to Rome, and this is where he was raised and given an education. And this is also where he became the tutor to then the future Emperor Nero, right? But Seneca left behind some letters that he wrote to a friend. And some people, I guess, put these letters together into an easily readable format. And Seneca, I believe it's the second letter, he sort of really touches on sort of how to begin to develop your character. And that's what I wanted to give you with. I'm not going to give you any advice of my own here. I want to give you the advice of someone who is very well known, who has basically been certified by the world or whatever, somehow, right? So basically in this letter, Seneca is talking to his friend, and he's sort of warning his friend about reading too many books by too many different authors about too many different subjects. He says that this is a very dangerous thing for a person to do, right? And it might not actually be very fulfilling in the end. And he uses sort of a metaphor to describe this type of person. And he describes him as a person who is obsessed with foreign travel. And at the end of it all, by the time they get done with all of their foreign travel, they will find themselves to be an acquaintance of many, but a friend to none. Right? So a person who reads a lot of books, who visits a lot of authors, who's interested in a lot of different subjects, he is never really developing any sort of intimacy. He's sort of only able to get enough out to sort of find his way around the place while he's there. And he's able to wave and keep up an appearance, but he doesn't have any real friends or any real intimate knowledge of any one subject or in any one region, right? So because he only spends a weekend here or a week there, he just doesn't have any friends. And because he reads this book about this subject and then immediately jumps to this book about that subject, he never actually is really deeply understanding any of the subjects that he's interested in. And this is what Seneca is warning against. And he goes on to describe it in different ways. He says that an illness will never be cured if there is a constant change in medicine, or a wound will never heal itself if there is a constant change in the type of ointment. A plant will never go strong if it is constantly being relocated. Right? And we know this too. Sometimes it could be damaging for a young person to move several times. in their childhood and never really set up any close relationships, never practice cultivating and maintaining close personal relationships, and that can have a lasting effect. Right? So we know some of these things to be true. Seneca goes on to tell his friend, he says, a person should never own such an extensive collection of books that they can't read them in one lifetime. He said, essentially, a person should not own any books that they don't regularly read. So if you have books that you read one time and you put them down and that's all you're ever going to use them for, you shouldn't own them. You should put them back into circulation and let somebody else read them. But you should only have the books that you return to over and over and over again that are so good or so profound, whatever it is, that you get something new every time you read it. And this is how you begin to develop your character, because developing your character is so personal to you, right? So developing it is also a very personal thing. We are all unique. We are all special, right? We're just not uniquely special or especially unique. Okay? So by following your heart, really, by following your natural inclinations, your natural tastes, the things that you're interested in, then you will sort of get a broad view of the direction you should go in. I'll give you an example. Let's take the person like myself who aspires to be some sort of philosopher, let's say. So, understanding that I've actually been the philosopher the entire movie, just in various stages of development, then as a young philosopher who's just stepping into the world of philosophy, our young philosopher is sort of taken by amazement, and he wants to soak up every bit of philosophy he can get his hands on from every corner of the globe. And this is what he does, right? And by doing this, by soaking up everything, by experimenting with everything, gradually our young philosopher will begin to discover that there are certain schools of thought that he gravitates towards naturally. His natural preference, his natural taste within the world of philosophy. And this is where he should stay, according to Seneca. So when this happens, when a person begins to discover their niche area, where they fit in, what they're truly interested in, they should find mentors in this area, right? So you should find authors or writers in this area of expertise, but a few, only as much as you can handle. This might be one at first. And once you completely devour this individual, you move on to the next until you have a small collection of experts. 3, 4, maybe 5 at the most. I believe Seneca says 5. So he says, have 5 authors that you agree to get to know intimately, that you return to their work over the course of a lifetime, right? And any time that you're craving change, return to another book that you've previously read, but pick it up again and deepen your understanding. Understand that learning is not linear. Learning is more spiral in its dynamic, right? Concentric circles. So we think that when we learn something, you begin here and you just constantly improve in that skill, but that's not true, right? You start at the basics, and then you make a roundabout until you get back to the basics. And then you start again, and every time you make this concentric circle, you're deepening your understanding. You're adding another layer of depth to your knowledge base in this one area. And so the more you go around it, start at the basics, work your way from the very beginning of your favorite author's work to the very end, over and over and over again. And over the course of your lifetime, you will become an expert in their philosophy. You will have come to embody their philosophy and also add your unique personal touch and develop a philosophy of your own. And now you have something of value. You see? Character development is, or can be, an active, conscious process. And this is what I wanted to bring to your attention, right? And so, taking this advice, this simple advice from Seneca, following your own natural inclinations, And then settling in somewhere within this, within your natural inclinations, find a hobby, find your love, and then pour yourself into that. Focus on that. I cast a very wide net with my interests. I'm always learning something. I love the act of learning new things. But I bounce from subject to subject to subject. I'm almost insatiable, right? All of my time is spent learning something, reading something. So as soon as I finish a book in one subject, I pick up one from the next. And so what happens is I actually will miss out on all of the practical application if I continue to do this. If I continue to just read nonstop, jump from author to author, subject to subject, I'll miss out on most of the experience. I'll never actually understand it. I may learn it, intellectually comprehend it, but without ever applying it, I will never truly understand it. Therefore, I have nothing to offer anyone else. You see? Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you're having a great day. Hope that you're enjoying yourself, finding some activities during this time to keep yourself busy. Anyway, until next time, I hope you continue to free your mind.